Hey everyone, how's it going today, and welcome back to another second and third stimulus check and third stimulus package unemployment benefits extension update. Because in today's video, we're going to basically be talking about something that technically applies to both stimulus packages, because in today's update, we're basically going to be talking and answering about one of the most common questions, or just talking a little bit about how to actually physically call the unemployment offices. Specifically because I know that there are a lot of people that are trying to call the unemployment offices, and it might be very difficult to physically reach them. And also, even if you're not trying to call the unemployment offices, I figured that this video may actually be very helpful if maybe one day into the future you actually do have to call the unemployment offices. Then maybe this should be hopefully good to know. So it should be a very straightforward video. I have other videos that talk about like unemployment arrival dates, delays, troubleshooting stuff, how to claim it if you're still waiting, whether or not you're supposed to refile, and then all sorts of different updates. So definitely check that out if you guys are brand new here or have any questions about that, or also about the different programs. So with that being said, we're going to get started, but remember to smash the like button if you can, because it always does help to support this channel, especially in light of a lot of the good news that have recently been coming out, because we finally have a brand new era. As you guys probably know, as crazy as the time that I'm making this video, Joe Biden has officially entered into the White House. He's officially been made the president, because this is after Inauguration Day has officially happened. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification button for future updates on stimulus checks, unemployment, all sorts of different programs. Feel free to check out other videos, and feel free also to comment any questions, thoughts about really anything at all. Maybe if you guys are still waiting, or you guys have received, feel free to maybe share your state and whether or not you've received your stimulus check and or unemployment end program. I think most people have received it, but it's always great to kind of keep up to date, because things are changing really fast every single day, which is great because it does mean that we are making a lot of progress. So with that being said, let's just get started right on the spot. So at the very end of this, I'm probably going to use specific examples as well. I'll probably use California and Pennsylvania, only because I know that in those two states there's a particularly large amount of people that need to actually call the unemployment offices, because as you guys probably know, is that there was like a delay, claim refiling situation that kind of happened in those two states, or it happened to a particularly large amount of people in those two states. So definitely stay tuned for that. But the first tip that they really recommend if you're trying to call the unemployment offices is to just try to call at very scattered times throughout the day, because it's exactly like with any kind of business, whether this is like restaurants, movie theaters, schools, any kind of business that's out there. Every single kind of business, there's some kind of peak hour, and then there's some kind of quiet hour. You know, that's kind of why we have something called happy hour when you go to bars. Throwback to when bars was an actual thing. I do miss bars very much. But the idea is that basically the unemployment offices is very similar. They don't always have the same exact busyness at every single hour, so they kind of vary a lot. Now, I have generally found that I think that with unemployment, they vary in their busyness, not just during the time of day, but sometimes even the day of the week. So for example, like I've heard supposedly Monday they tend to be the busiest. My personal gut is it's probably because there's a lot of people that maybe procrastinated, and they're trying to call on Saturday and Sunday, but they couldn't call on Saturday and Sunday because it's closed, so now they're all jamming their calls on Monday. But I do heard that they vary a lot. I do know in terms of the time of day, I've heard that a lot of people have found success if they've tried to call either the very first 1 hour when they open, or the very last hour when they close. I've also heard of some people that have found success during lunchtime, but then the problem with lunches is that it's a little bit vague, because everyone takes lunch at a different time. So it's kind of a little bit difficult to predict, like, do they go to lunch at 12, 1, 2 o'clock? I eat lunch personally about 2 o'clock, but I'm like a little bit later inside of the day. So it really varies. But the best method really is that to really try to just call at very scattered times. So maybe just like a couple times at 8 a.m., then 9 a.m., then 10 a.m., then 11 a.m. Really just to scatter. It's even more true if you actually have the free time to basically do so anyway. I think it's been something that has hopefully helped a lot of different people. And then the second tip that I think a lot of people have recommended is sometimes when you go to the unemployment offices, in many states, it depends on the state, but in most states, it is very rare actually that the unemployment office has only one phone number. It depends on the state, but especially I know that in a lot of big states in particular, there's often multiple different phone numbers that you can actually use to kind of contact them. Sometimes there's different phone numbers for even different languages. So if you happen to be bilingual, sometimes there's like an English phone number, a Spanish phone number, a Chinese, a Korean phone number of some kind. But even if you can only speak English, there's also often different phone numbers for even different departments within unemployment. So sometimes you might have a case where it's like, call this number if you are looking to apply for unemployment. Another one is call this number if you're looking to troubleshoot a situation with unemployment. Another one is that if you're looking to deal with this other side of unemployment. But the general idea is sometimes you might even have different phone numbers to call within unemployment. So if you've been dialing that one exact phone number over and over again, there is a chance that you may even be able to find another phone number online, and it would be very worth it to maybe try to get all the different numbers and just to try to rotate and call through them every single time you're trying to call. If you did end up calling not the wrong number, but basically the department that is not the right department for what you're trying to accomplish, there's a very high chance that if anything, they're just going to redirect you to whoever is the right department anyway. So that's why it's kind of 100% worth calling, because the second that you can get someone on the line, even if it's not the right department, especially if it's actually a general question in general, they may even be able to solve it on the spot. But if they don't, let's say for example, like they don't know the answer, then likely is that they're probably at the very least can at least direct you to the person that hopefully knows the correct answer and will hopefully be faster than if you were to try and just call individually out into like open free world kind of story. And then I think the third tip really is that in many cases, and I think this is the one that less people have kind of thought about, but in many cases, there may actually be multiple ways to kind of contact the unemployment offices. It's just that calling is often the best way. So if you are able to manage to call and carry through with hopefully the first two tips, then it probably work best. But if you're already still waiting anyway, in many cases, you might even be able to look on there, and certain states even have different ways that you can contact them. So for example, I'm going to use California and Pennsylvania as an example, as I mentioned, is that if you look through it, is that there's actually a lot of different ways that you can contact them. So you don't even necessarily have to call. Sometimes you might even be able to like do a live chat, or you might even be able to send an email or to send a message of some kind, or they may even already have the answer on the website themselves. So the general idea is that there's actually many different ways: live chat, messaging, email, phone numbers, and then within phone numbers, multiple different phone numbers in many cases, that hopefully one of them is able to at least pull through, that you can possibly try to look into. And then probably the final last thing to really maybe share is to really think about, like, if you still really need help to troubleshoot something, is to maybe just try to find a friend, whether in real life or whether on YouTube or social media, just somewhere, which is also why I've always recommended people to kind of comment their status, because as we've mentioned before, the most official information will always come from people that are living through a particular situation firsthand than any article. Even the state's official website can sometimes be a little bit off. So the general idea is that if you did end up having some kind of situation, also possibly maybe just look into trying to find a friend or someone out there that maybe is in your state, and just kind of asking what they've done, because a lot of times is that at the very least you guys can kind of hold hands and tie together as you're navigating through this like journey of getting through unemployment, to at least be able to share information to know, well, maybe this person, you know, is also waiting around, so at least we know we're on the same exact page. And in many cases, especially if the reason you're calling is to really ask them a general question, there is a chance that maybe there's another person that actually did manage to successfully contact unemployment, and maybe they had the same question, so now they can also share information along as well. Of course, if you did have a very specific situation, like I know for example in California, a lot of people were dealing with like the reclaim button situation that you guys probably know if you guys are from California / the fraud, freezing, a lot of the troubleshooting stuff. Some people in Pennsylvania, I know, were going through that where they kind of reapplied and now their account might have been froze because of that situation. Probably the best tip, I think, is to really maybe follow through. Of course, the best case is hopefully that if you're able to maybe go through the first couple of tips, to call at scattered times, to try multiple different numbers, and then maybe to use multiple different ways to actually contact them. Hopefully at least one of them is able to go through, because it really often in many cases just takes one time, even if it can be incredibly difficult to sometimes contact them. In many cases it just takes one time, and hopefully through that time a lot of things can hopefully get fixed, and a lot of things could hopefully end up becoming life-changing. So that's what I really wanted to share in today's video. Hopefully one of these methods ends up going through, but I know that it's something that has kind of helped for a lot of different people. If you've been basically just spam calling the same exact number at the same exact hour, or certainly at the same time block, so you know, for example, maybe you always do it during a certain range, to really scatter out, hopefully maybe one of them is finally able to go through. So with that being said, hopefully if you guys found something insightful, remember to smash the like button if you guys haven't done so already. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification button for all sorts of future updates, and also some past videos too about unemployment and the stimulus check and stimulus package. And feel free to comment any questions, thoughts about really honestly just anything at all. I try to get to as many people, but if I don't, feel free to maybe comment again in a future video, and I think the likelihood is I should hopefully eventually try to get to it. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay well, and hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.